Whoa. Oh, sweet. Frank Castle's in World Peace 2, apparently. That's
Hmm.
sick. That is great. All right. Don't want to watch this guy anymore. There we go. All right. Yeah. Stream started. We're- So yeah. What are your predictions? Have you got any hot takes on this?
Again, nothing. Black hole void. No, no, no. Just I'm expecting nothing, but I know that I'll be again. I'll come in, leave as I came. I'll come in with nothing and I'll leave with nothing. Just this will be a big void, which is, I'm sure, like very exciting stream for people.
I've got I don't know, like yeah, I do genuinely feel nothing, but I got tiny little fingers crossed that maybe something will come about, like the PSVR 2 section of the Sony showcase, PlayStation showcase, that like sucked. That was really boring. So, just showing that they're not serious actors in this space. They have a peripheral, cool. At least for Meta, like this is meant to be the future of the Meta organization. Like everything rides on this, so I'm kind of hoping and expecting something crazy to come about from this. Like I'm hoping we see maybe Gary's game might get dropped in here, but
Yeah.
also like crazier, bigger stuff than that, like real insano, like AAA amazing experiences, etc. Because and again, because if they don't, not to like repeat the point too many times, but it's like there does need to be some momentum being added to the VR space, and it's like okay, PlayStation not interested. Who else is a major player that actively produces hardware and content? Like it's Meta,
Only
right?
Valve, I guess.
Yeah, but even then, their content is few and far between. The hardware's impressive, but it doesn't really, you don't. I think it's important with like a console or a platform, like you can associate that thing with an experience. So I say Nintendo, you think Mario. I say Xbox, you think Halo, or at least you used to. But if I say HTC Vive, it's like nothing springs to mind. And same with things like Stadia. It's like when I say Stadia, you think on live. You just think, yeah, I can play games I've already got on Steam. There needs to be that, and the Quest, to be fair, doesn't really have that either. I guess you could say no, it doesn't really have that either. So now's kind of the time that these people need to start adding content that like you associate with that hardware as something like absolutely amazing, must have. Because if not, why would you even buy that shit?
That was what killer apps, that phrase
Yeah,
is for.
exactly. And it Dreamcast. What do you think when you think Dreamcast? Like, I don't really think anything because it didn't have anything. It didn't have anything absolutely amazing. I mean, I guess they had Sonic, it's Sega, but by that point, it really had lost all its momentum. But you don't have that with Nintendo. You don't have that with PlayStation because all those other brands, you can say a word and you immediately think of like characters, experiences, emotions come to the forefront of your mind. Hey, we're here for the MetaQuest Gaming Showcase, so it's time to show us like for the final fucking time. Can you show us some games that we are actually gonna feel like invigorated for and excited about? Because if you don't, the problem for us is there's the momentum's not there for VR, and like we need it to be there because we are rapidly developing the greatest VR shooter ever made. But I don't want to sell to a market of like 50 people. It's like I don't want to be in the HD DVD business the day Microsoft announces that they're not going to support the HD DVD drive anymore. Because it's like, right, we're heading for the bargain bin. We're heading for death.
Well, I think there's enough people who have VR for us to at least make money back on it. But it's
Cash.
I think that someone's gonna win. Someone's gonna win. It's in this weird period right now where there's a lot of growing pains. We've said it before, growing pains and teething problems and all the stuff that it's got to get through first. But someone's gonna do it, and someone's gonna make the killer app or something that basically just starts to convince people en masse. And then when that happens, that'll be the
Oops.
that'll be the thing that we all say. Of course, why didn't we do this before? Where did this come from? I'm hoping that's Gunday is part of that conversation, because Gunday should be at least somewhat interesting.
Long have I guarded this
And do something
kingdom,
new. But, here we go.
Straight in.
area between darkness and light. But invaders from another
It's not a
world
great
are
start.
tempted
It's honestly not a great start, but
To me, right, it depends. What do you do? That's the question that I always ask with every trailer I see. What do you do? I mean, I don't care how it looks. I don't care about anything except what I'm going to be doing in the game. And this could be kind of fun. I mean, you're playing seemingly a bad guy. Platforming, punching things, multiplayer. Okay.
I never like this like pseudo evil thing that we've been doing for a few years now. Like all these games where it's like you're a bad guy, the thing's cute, and it's like, well, yeah, can I rape it? Can I actually? Can I really do evil things?
You get?
Yeah. How? Yeah. What's the ceiling on badness here?
You can bash it and pull it.
Yeah.
Twist it.
You can bash it and pull it. Can I be racist? Can I scream? Can I grab it and scream the N-word into its face? By now? No, don't tell me what to do.
That's weird. By now, it's very. We've seen this before. But I hate cute horror shit as well. I'm tired of that. When it's cute, but it's secretly horrifying. Oh shit! It's a teddy bear, but it's got blood all over it. Okay. Done before yawn.
I've got a bit. I don't know if you can see the lighting has suddenly changed. I've got a bit of like a film noir. Like the light is hitting my eyes.
You need shades, like the shutters. So this is an update. Talking about.
I guess. Yeah, and to be fair, this is like the pre-show. We're just getting into things, so it's not going to be like the most like bombastic, exciting shit. But again, I think that the pre-show is the highlight of why is VR not working. Like why are people not rushing out to buy VR headsets? It's because like the current offering is like, you're like evil. Oh, you're making a lovely little city. It's like, nah. It's when I think when I think of VR. Like, what VR games are great, it's the stuff that we've conceptualized or made. Like, I think of Gunday, I think of Kill Machine, I think of that kind of stuff. Like, I don't ever think of this. I don't think that we should make stuff like this, but I also don't envision myself ever playing this. And again, I'm not trying to shit on the devs. Obviously, there's room for a game like this in the VR space. Oh, it's an end dream, so actually, no, fuck them. No. But it's just like, it's not enough. It's not enough. Clearly, and I'm clearly right because VR's not the be all and end all. Ooh.
It's a horror board game in VR, I guess.
That's fun. I like that. Oh, this is very Japanese.
To me, with VR, the thing that makes it game worthy of VR is what you do with your hands and how you move around and look around. This game, you gotta ask yourself, could it be played outside of VR? Could it be better not being a VR game? Being able to, either like use your hands. Do you need to? Is it so good being able to pick up pieces of board game stuff in your hand? It is fun, but you get my point. It's like this isn't a system set necessarily for VR. I always think of TrueScape. TrueScape can only exist on the mobile, on touchscreen devices because of how the control scheme works. Perfect for mobile phones because of that. It can't be done on anything else. If your game can be done outside of VR, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you could do Gunday outside of VR, but it'd be way worse because of the roller coaster element to it and all the flipping around and stuff. To me, that game just looked like a screen game shoehorned into VR.
Which again, yeah, like it's fine for when I was saying it can't exist. It's fine for it to exist, just like any platform. It needs games built for that platform, but then you're gonna get like the shovelware or just like the mortar, like stuff to fill in the gaps, the stocking filler type games. It's like, yeah, cool, fine. But as you say, there needs to be stuff that like you could only have on that platform, and that's not just the reason it exists. That's the reason for you as a consumer to go out and buy it. And yeah, every time we look at one of these games, we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, the city building game, you know, it's nice to be in your city, but to me that could be a mode of City Skylines could add a VR mode, and that would be the one that everyone plays because everyone has, you know, plays City Skylines.
Yeah, because it's a better game, and someone will just use one of those like VR injectors to make a VR version of it, and it's like there's your superior game. This is putting me to sleep.
It's like a Tim and Eric bit there. People, dude in the background.
That's got to be the most
Yeah.
boring fucking trailer I've ever seen. What the heck? Like, it's not a great start, guys. I know the show technically hasn't begun, but holy shit. I've already forgotten. Aren't these the guys who all got fired? I covered it a few weeks ago. I'm positive Onward was Downpour Interactive, right?
Don't ask me. I know nothing.
It's just funny that they're showcasing this because like their CEO quit and then they fired like, what was it, 20-30% of the staff. Let's see, Downpour Interactive. Yeah, so it's like, hey, this thing that's in the meta showcase, it's like we acquired them and then we fired them. But now we're going to continue to show off their game. It's like brutal.
Well, you know, there's money to be made.
Again, like these trailers are all kind of very like mellow. Like they're not very, yeah. Sort of put me to sleep. It's almost like we've speculated a lot of VR design is designed to not make you feel anything because people are scared of like motion sickness, and that bleeds into other areas. It's kind of bleeding into like trailers and presentation. Thinking about a lot of like how Meta presents their headsets, how these games trailers are put together. It's a lot of like kind of mellow, like middle of the road, like don't feel too much.
Well, yeah, that city building game, I can't remember what it's called. That was cozy. They use the word cozy.
Yeah.
And that cutesy game is going to be cozy, and it's all going to be that sort of vibe of chill out, relax, and I guess there's place for that. But yeah.
But there's got to be a counterbalance. Yeah, there's got to be something. There's got to be something for those of us who actually want to feel emotion, that have like testosterone in our blood. I mean, this is just
another board game translated to VR.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not averse to the idea, but did this have to be VR? Is this a system?
Maybe we should be, but maybe we should just take like a hardline stance, like fuck you, Demio battles, fuck you for doing this. Wishlist now. Is that by Meta? Is that an actual Meta?
They should have announced a demo.
My dear little
Demio.
you're a special one.
Oh, it's these guys again.
To experience time a bit more flexible.
Again, like mellow music.
Yeah.
Like I just.
I want Gunday to just be like, you know, just like,
fuck you.
You should feel like you've been hit in the face. People should be able to remember the Gunday trailer because they've been like knocked unconscious by it.
Yeah.
Not by, you know, falling asleep, being knocked unconscious, like bombastic.
Yeah, they get heart palpitations. They need to go take a shower because they stink and they piss themselves and there's shit in their pants. Like, none of this. I don't want footage. I don't want our trailers to have this footage of people like, yeah, like having fun. It should be a guy like, ah, like screaming and like accidentally punching his lights and hitting the cat and shit.
Yeah. Someone playing Gunday, we have a dude playing it, but as he's playing it, he is being attacked by the police or something. The police are actually raiding his house and he's running in fear.
He's doing like a Mr. Magoo, like accidentally dodging the tasers. He falls over the sofa. He kicks someone in the head.
He
Yeah,
accidentally like breaks into and storms like Langley CIA headquarters because he thinks he's playing Gun Day. Well, he is playing Gun Day, but you know he's also dominating all the security guards and the CIA soldiers. What's this painting game?
Power Wash Simulator, and again, more like chill, cozy, relax, just sit back, like wash things. I do feel kind of insane. It's like, whether it's an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever, it's like, this is not how any console has ever been sold. But for some reason in VR, it's become acceptable. Like, this is fine, this is normal. And it's like, but it's not. Clearly it's not, because no one's buying this. There should be, especially the Quest, there should be like 10 million Quest headsets out there. It should be like the biggest thing ever. And it's like, well, surprise, surprise, it's not, because everything's so safe and cutesy and watered down, mellow, cozy, relaxing. Don't worry, if you put our headset on, you'll feel nothing.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, games are supposed to be escapism, and you're supposed to be able to do things in games you couldn't do in reality. Now, power washing, people can do that. People are paid to do that.
I'm gonna be power washing my fucking front patio tomorrow. I'm gonna be doing like I've already got that scheduled, guys. I don't need to pre-order your game because I'm already doing that IRL.
I find that sort of stuff strange. Like, obviously, you know, it's a satisfaction of a job well done. That's what they're appealing to. But it's like gamifying in a workplace. Like, I can imagine Amazon making that sort of game to sort of reprogram individuals to become like obsessed with being an Amazon worker. They gamified it so well that people want to be hardcore Amazon workers, hardcore power washers, because they just love playing that shit. So it's like if you want to breed a slave class of people.
Yeah, you get them all hooked on Power Wash Sim.
Yeah, just 20 years of Power Wash, you know, Death Stranding, Delivery Man game, those sorts of things, and eventually people will love being minimum wage workers, working for 15 hours a day.
This is funny. It says there's always a risk of games slipping due to the real chat. You don't start a show with the fucking, like, hey guys, we might not actually, everything's slated to launch this year, but we might not launch it this year. And there's also great games later, but we're not going to show you, but promise you good stuff's coming. Again, could you imagine any other fucking show in any other point in gaming history like this?
Yeah,
it's like,
and
you
also,
know.
He's like starting the show off by saying like, now hold on, just don't get too excited there for a moment, there, pal. Just give it a minute.
Again, don't feel too strong an emotion, guys. It might all go to shit. What an awful caveat.
Yeah.
Could you also could you get your mic a little closer to your?
I'll sit close to it.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, because Discord keeps doing like the cutout thing on you.
Oh, nice, good.
Just a little bit. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Again, mellow. I'm really calm and I feel like I'm gonna go to sleep.
Welcome everyone to our third annual MetaQuest Gaming Show.
I'm gonna come.
I'm thrilled to be back hosting, and it's a big day. This morning, Mark Zuckerberg shared that our MetaQuest 3, our next-gen VR headset, is launching later this year. MetaQuest 3 is our follow-up to MetaQuest 2, and will feature advanced tech that opens up new possibilities.
This feels like I'm in elementary school. This feels like a first grade teacher.
It will also be backwards compatible.
When did the Quest 2 come out?
Library of over
2 years ago.
games and apps.
Yeah, I have a worry about
Later
how
in
frequently they're going to do this. I think they're going to be. They want it to be like mobile phones.
Yeah. Most immersive game
they want you to, you know, take a contract out and have a new one every 2 years.
That will take advantage of MetaQuest 3's cutting-edge hardware. We have way more to share when MetaQuest 3 releases, including specs, more apps and experiences, and a whole slate of groundbreaking MR content.
Okay.
These are all stepping stones toward our long-term vision for building the metaverse.
Of enslaving you in the Matrix.
But for today's showcase, it's all about VR games. Every title you see today will be playable on both MetaQuest 2 and 3. And it's currently
so they're all going to be kneecapped then.
Yeah, why would I buy a MetaQuest 3 then?
Started.
I feel it's crazy shit. This is insane. But whatever, okay. I'm getting wild. I'm getting excited.
At least back in the day when like Killzone lied about how good it looked, at least that was exciting.
Yeah.
Lie to me, come on. Where's Peter Molyneux? He's excited, you know, he's jumping around. Let's get some excitement in here.
That's a great USP in exciting 3D environments.
I want to see what a Quest game in 2D would be like completely no depth. It'd be horrible probably, but of course it's going to be 3D, right?
Yeah.
You're using a device that has bifocal vision.
It's one for the kids, I guess. So, I'm sure they'll enjoy it.
Just seems like a
Samba
Beat
de
Saber
Amigo
wannabe, you know.
in
Yeah.
VR. I could not be more
And that was
excited,
what was the thing you
because
led
music
with.
is such an important part of my life. I was a professional musician for years, and at Meta, I've gotten to work with the talented teams behind a bunch of other rhythm games. Playing Samba de Amigo in VR feels like it's always belonged here.
I have railed
And I
against this
can't
loads, but
wait
this like
to see
highly
everyone
curated,
shake,
like
shaking their maracas.
this is taking it to another
Sega
level
brings
where
the
they're
game
doing
to
like
the
camera
Midwest
angles
store
and like
this fall.
tracking shots and stuff, and it's just like
Back in
it's so
February,
soulless.
Shell Games revealed
It's
I
so
Expect You to Die
boring.
3,
It's so
Cog
like
in the Machine.
She's in
Today,
a you know
can
the
confirm
prequel film,
this
the
third
Star Wars
helping of
prequel
spy
films.
Yeah.
hijinks.
She could be in
Spy
any of those
Kids
sets.
is coming to the Meta
Between
Quest
takes,
store
she's
this
probably
year.
Green
crying.
screen.
She's like in
Hopefully your
McKellen
skills
on the
haven't
set of The
gotten
Hobbit.
worse,
Like, everything's
because
green.
this
She's
prequel
she
will
hasn't
send
seen a
agents
human
on
in
their
weeks.
most challenging
I also
mission
like
yet.
the little humble brag there about her
More
being a
villainous
professional
villains.
musician for years.
Tackle
I hope she
more
does that for
perilous
every
perils.
genre of game.
Yeah.
Like if there's a game about a
Play
murderer,
fewer
like she
times.
says, "Now I've not told anyone this, but I, you know," and this game's great for that.
Or that steering wheel was not attached correctly.
Oh shit!
Right.
This is a Gunday competitor.
Yeah,
Dr.
Gun Day.
Roxanne
No,
was a former
they
inventor
literally
of the
they threw the input device out the window.
Be a better agent.
Oh, hey, Admiral Butler.
You'll either prove her wrong or prove her right.
I suppose you do drive in it,
In that second scenario,
and you drink beer maybe.
Once you're dead, everyone will see just how superior my robots are to human agents.
Hey, you found some nickel. Do it again.
I hate cutscenes and dialogue now in games.
Yeah, it's like millennial writers now dominate
It-
game writing. It all comes across.
It's simply a matter
Just that's all they care about. All this is just so that they can say words at me, and they're funny jokes and their quips and their withering put downs and you know.
Are you using Dr. P's notes I left?
You know, when you talk to me, that's when you lie to me, so stop talking. Shut up and let me play a game. This is why I
You
think
don't
things
have
like
to play the
boomer
series in
shooters
order,
are popular
but if
because
you'd like
there's
to,
minimal
you'll
of
find
that.
the
It's
first two
just
games bundled in the Meta
gameplay.
Quest
Yeah, and they're
store
harkening
for
back
40%
to an
off
era
for a
where
limited
like
time.
you only had 64
not
megabytes, so
all
you
Shell
couldn't
Games
afford
is
to
working
have
on.
lots of
story
text.
was in
They
the
made a
README
promise at
file.
last
Yeah.
year's
Yeah,
showcase.
it wasn't in the game
Three
anywhere except
games
for the
over the
README.
next 2 years.
Can we go back to that now? Because
Hot
you
off the
know,
press,
Joss
let me
Whedon, we all
introduce you
love
to
him, but we don't need to
Slayer,
emulate him
Vault
for
of the
500
Vampire.
years, do we?
Silent Slayer is a single-player horror game that'll bring you face-to-face with slumbering vampires. And as you might guess from the title, stealth is key to survival. As Shell Games puts it, silence is golden, sound is death. Spooky. Let's take
It's
a peek.
fucking Confucius over here. Yeah, it's the slumbering vampires because they're all watching the Quest Showcase 2023.
Been knocked out.
They're in it, so they're completely
to the
pacified.
center of the chess, and do not be gentle.
We're gonna get some VR acting, like oh, hand acting. That
Yeah, it's like I saw his hand shaking as he was going to open it.
was that it?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I like the logo. The logo I liked.
At last year's
Oh,
showcase,
all right.
we revealed Ghostbusters: Rise of
She
the
looks
Ghost
like
Lord.
She-Hulk.
And then I got to drive off
Yeah.
into the sunset in the iconic Ecto-1. For this year's show, Sony Pictures VR and nDreams put together a little dossier on the Ghost Lord himself. Who is he, and how did he get to be so mean? Along the way, we'll get a glimpse of the
I
West
hate
Coast's
this
first
so much.
Ghostbusters
Like,
This is.
th-
I went in with
iconic
nothing. Remember
San
Black Void,
Francisco
nothing.
landmarks.
we did say we wanted to feel something though. Like I'm feeling like frustrated and I feel like I'm being patronized. Like this is
Well, the word-
patronizing.
The word is ennui. You know, complete like loss of love for life.
Yeah.
You think you know
Yeah, I
the
think that's
whole
spot on.
story of the
Hey, look,
Ghostbusters?
there's words coming at
Well,
us
you
again.
don't
Someone's
know
talking to us
my
again. A
story.
game character is talking at me
1984.
again.
Oopada bika go boopaba doo shoopada heepada
I
hoopada.
studied under the
Oh
Where's the
no!
gameplay? Where's the game? No gameplay? Are you going to take 15 minutes to get to the
But
gameplay,
in
are
San
you?
Francisco, I can show them.
San Francisco.
It's
Oh,
untapped
great.
cauldron
Show
of
me.
undead.
Show me gameplay.
Where others saw fear, I saw subjects. How could I know my research would stir a dormant evil? The Ghost Lord. Alcatraz. Tortured souls.
Tortured souls. That's us.
Drain again.
Oh, we're getting to gameplay. We're getting to gameplay.
It looks like gameplay stuff.
My dear assistant Katie understands. Soon everyone
I don't give a fuck about Katie. Show us the gameplay.
Ghostbusters.
Come on, this.
With your
Okay,
sick
gameplay.
parlor
Thank you.
tricks. You will see the progress I have made. Know the power I have harnessed. You will realize that I, Gustav Hookfather, am the genius who gave the world endless clean energy. The Ghost Lord is coming.
What have I brought upon the world?
The time of the Ghost Lord is here.
I mean,
So that was 90% of man talking and bulleted, like, you know, cork boards with paper on, and a little bit of a man holding Ghostbusters devices and walking through Alcatraz.
Check this out. The team let me
Oh,
into the San
fuck
Francisco
off. This
Ghostbusters
sucks.
HQ a little early.
This
It's
is
still
this is
under
the trick.
construction.
You remember this, don't you?
I've got
Member
my
berries.
photon
You remember
map,
this?
my
Now
PKE
buy it.
meter, and I know exactly who I'm teaming up with to take out the Ghost Lord. Because if there's one thing you can say about me, is that I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Is that the Quest 3 on ahead?
Whew.
It should have been,
Anyway.
right?
When we asked
Should have
Ron
been, shouldn't
Homestead,
it?
developers of Rapid
You know, like.
what's something players
never
will love
mind.
about your new game? They said you can lose an arm, then pick it back up.
Holy
and
shit!
bash
It's
your
it's
opponent.
again like how many years can we do this where it's like
Underdog
just
is a
give us the
physics-based
money
brawler
and we'll
where
do a
you
better
wrap
job.
yourself
Can
in
someone just
5
give us their
times the real
fucking
mech
money so we
and
can just
rampage
do
through New
the
Brunswick.
show, the film,
22nd
the
century
game,
mech
all
fighting
of
capitals
reality.
of
We
the
can just
world.
do it better
Take
for
on
you.
whatever the pitmasters throw your way and upgrade your mech to be even more fearsome.
Well, why would anything
But
nice
remember,
happen, you know?
The more you climb the ranks, the more every lowlife in the city will be gunning for you. So get
Oh
ready
shit,
to
this
claw
is
your
San
way up
Francisco
the
again.
food chain.
Yeah. Sounded a bit like Gundam. Maybe this is a Gundam. Oh no, it's in mechs though.
Yo, this city ain't never gonna let you.
Hey yo man, hoopa da beepa, do shoopa da beepa boopa, more talking,
again.
doopa da deepa da hoopa da.
At least we're seeing some gameplay though, you know, like it has. So this is a mech game. Yeah, okay.
Oh shit, yeah, that's macking on our kill machine desires. Like the colours. I like that it's
Also,
about. I like that it's killing dogs. It's like just a dog killing game. Big fan. That's a W.
I want to some of them, you think of some joke thing? No, sir.
Was that other mechs? It's not multiplayer, right? It's just other mechs.
That'd be cool if it's multiplayer.
Yeah. Alright, that's
Yeah,
a good one.
that looks sick. That looks cool. I'd have led with that.
Yeah, although it's good that they put it here, because
At last
yeah,
year's
that's
show,
not
we
like the
revealed
blip on the
NFL
flat
Pro
line.
Era,
Yeah,
the first
that was the
NFL
that literally is like the
licensed VR
adrenaline
football
that's
sim.
brought us back to life.
Since the game's launch
Yeah,
last
just for
October,
more
you've
pain,
completed
though, just
over
for more
40
torture.
million NFL seasons and
I
unlocked
mean,
over
NFL.
9
Okay, if you like the
million
NFL,
trophies.
then this is your time to shine.
What's
But
next?
this is where I,
Here to tell you,
you know,
is
just put my
Status Quo
brain on
president and
pause for a
co-founder
moment.
and former NFL wide receiver Andrew Hawkins.
Oh shit!
Thanks, Ruth.
It's
Our goal
Andrew
last year at Status
Hawkins.
Pro was to give people the experience of being NFL QB1.
You know, people
There's no
think
rush of stepping
he's
onto the
acting,
field
but he
or
actually
leading
does
your
talk like
favorite
this.
NFL team to victory. And the positive response we
Very
got from
well
our community
spoken.
was overwhelming,
Yeah,
but that was just the
he's very
beginning.
slick.
Later this year, we're upping the game with the next evolution of NFL
But no one takes
Pro
him
Era.
seriously down at the
This
pub,
year
though.
is all about showing the world what you've got. With the new version of NFL Pro Era, we're expanding multiplayer so you and your best friend can pit your favorite teams against each other and see who comes out on top.
And he knows this just
There's
off the
a
cuff
world
as
of
well. Like,
competition out there, and
people
we're
think
gonna
this is
see how
rehearsed.
community's QB skills stack up.
He
Now,
didn't
a
even
lot
know
this
they
year
were
between now
they
and
were
launch.
recording.
New
They just
features,
he
new
was
modes.
just
This
Yeah.
has been more than
nicely
locked
chatting
in.
to her, and they just
The
flicked the
next
cameras
version
on,
of
and it
NFL
just all
Pro
played
Era
out
will
like this.
build on last year's
Yeah.
game in so
These
many
cameras
new
is
ways
recording
that
like
we cannot
24/7,
wait to
and
get it in your
this is a
hands.
totally natural
Check us out
conversation
on
that
social. We
they're
posted a
having.
lot
This
of
is
community
behind the
and
scenes
game
footage,
updates
actually.
Yeah,
before
this is
we
a
launched
Tinder
this
date.
fall.
He's taking her back to his
This
apartment.
is really cool.
He's taking her back to his apartment
Thanks,
in
Al.
like a heaven
All
or
right,
hell.
moving on
Can't
from
tell.
the field to the court. Back in December, Resolution Games, creators of Blastin' and Demio, revealed their latest project, Racket Club, an all-new sport designed exclusively for VR. Practice your swing solo, play pickup matches with people all around the world, or just hang out and socialize courtside with your friends in this one-of-a-kind sports complex. Here's a new look
See in the
at
comments they're
Racket
asking,
Club.
where is Banana Bandits? A lot of comments asking for Banana Bandits.
I don't know what that is. It could be a slur. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
it probably is. You got diving and sliding as well. Like, how sick would it be? Like, going in for like the dive grab,
Yeah.
getting it sliding, throwing it, hitting the pole. That'd be
Check it
awesome.
out. Yeah.
Debut gaming showcase.
Yeah.
I premiered the launch trailer for Wraith: The Oblivion Afterlife. From
I
Fast
sound
Travel
like she
Games.
said rape the
It was the
Oblivion
first
Afterlife.
VR game
I'd have done a
set in
second
world
take
of
on that.
darkness.
Wraith.
And today, we're diving
Wraith.
back into the world of supernatural horror with an all-new adventure RPG, Vampire: The Masquerade Justice, which will send you to Venice, but not the Venice you see on postcards. You are a vampire.
I just want to see more of
In the
Underdogs.
city's
I think they should have done like
darkest
30, 40 minutes on
hide in
that.
plain sight.
But
Turn
it's good
for
to leave you
blood
wanting
at
more.
portals
So,
and
you know,
use your
the trailer did its job.
abilities
It
to
worked.
become the ultimate judge of the guilty. So, without further ado, let's sink our teeth into the debut trailer for Vampire: The Masquerade Justice.
Venice. Italy. Felt like I was back on square one. Hiding in the night. I didn't want to get dragged into this.
Woods.
But the
Yeah, but to be fair, they're
must
showing
be
gameplay.
finished.
There's not been just someone talking at me for 5 minutes. The gameplay looks, you know, it looks suitable for the game. It looks stealthy, VR, vampire stuff. That's fine. Yeah, this looks.
Because
I'd
if
give
you
this a go,
don't,
probably.
I'll make things very uncomfortable.
It
for
doesn't
you.
really remind me of Bloodlines though. Vampire the Masquerade had a very particular tone.
Yeah, but it's like Blood Hunt the Battle Royale, which they just shut down. I think Vampire the Masquerade
an
is now just
adventure that
an
never
IP
needs
to
to
be
end.
exploited.
This one is special to me.
Yeah,
It's developed
guess
by Other Gate,
I don't know.
a studio co-founded by
Bloodlines had
four
a very
VR
particular
veterans
vibe to it. I
used
don't
to
know
work
if
with
these
for
new
years on the
these new ones are
Oculus
going to be able to
Studios
capture
team.
that.
They just
Our
have to
very
be whatever
first
they need to
super
be to
popular franchise,
sell
Deadberry.
a VR headset
I
or
know
to sell the
firsthand that
concept
these
of a
guys are
microtransactions battle
masters at
royale or
making fun
whatever.
multiplayer
Vampire
games,
Masquerade
and I am
carts. That's
honored
what we're
to
waiting
Yeah,
announce
for.
their next
why not?
project, Dungeons of Eternity. This 1 to 3 player dungeon crawler generates levels from hundreds of unique chambers, so no two trips are the same. You'll explore dark crypts, ruined castles, and deep caverns. Battle monstrous enemies with melee and magic, solve puzzles, avoid traps, gather loot, escape back
I feel
to
like this is
safety,
filler as well,
level
like
up, and then
explaining
do it
the
all over again
yeah,
Tell
just
as
yeah,
well.
just show it to us. Like you don't need to describe. Give us an entire dissertation on a thing that you're literally now about to show us.
Yeah.
It's constant words, like it's unnecessary.
It'd be great if she described like, you know, like Skyrim or something, and she just went in depth talking about the mechanics for like 4 hours, just listing every weapon, every enchantment, every stat,
Underlying
every
code
formula.
base, like what the
Yeah.
how the physics engine works.
Look, she talks about patches and stuff. Like in version 1.05, this character was positioned here. Just yeah, they should just. She could have been talking over this, right? There's no dialogue.
Yeah,
and,
why
and
not?
thank God for that, by the way. This is the first thing with just gameplay. And it's multiplayer, right?
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder, is this what I wonder if this is fuck, I was gonna say Four Door Lemon, not Four Door Lemon. Simon Barrett's lot, because they were working on a okay, completely different company. I remember Simon Barrett was working on like a multiplayer dungeon monster VR game.
We brought back Samba de Amigo.
Well, that
but
looked.
we must have
I mean,
other
yeah, I'd give that a go if
classics
someone else
waiting
had a
in
copy
wings,
of it.
Yeah.
How about one of the best-selling games of the 90s? An iconic mystery, maybe? Something a little spooky?
Woo!
Yeah, I think we have one like that.
Okay. People asking the lady to twerk. That's what I'm seeing in the live chat. They're saying twerk, please.
Yep. Where's Zuckerberg anyway?
Yeah, you'd think he'd make a showing.
It's you. Don't be afraid. I'm here to help.
He's working out.
Many
He hasn't
of
got
you
time for this shit. He's not a
trapped
nerd
in this
anymore. He's
house.
fucking Sigma Chad.
Oh, yeah, he's probably breaking spines in karate, isn't he? Or
Yeah.
whatever he's doing in his spare time.
Each night.
Harvesting
He's
adrenochrome.
practicing the blade.
He
That's what he's
harvests
doing now.
adrenochrome directly.
Yeah.
He doesn't have servants do it anymore for him. He just breaks them open himself. Okay, a lot of words again.
Seventh Guest. That wasn't that a notoriously bad game from the 90s.
Well, it says it has millions of fans, so it must have been a bestseller back in the day.
It was a game with like
Seventh
incredibly
Guest
obtuse
is mostly
puzzles.
known for ushering in the CD-ROM era, once upon a time.
She really does like to
But it's a
explain
great
everything.
puzzle adventure game.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see Vertigo
She's like the
Games and Vertigo Studios
the
Rotterdam
real
staying
estate
true
agent
to
there,
the
Bob
original,
Mortimer, you know, explaining everything except for the
reimagining
house.
for a new era.
Yeah,
The
so
team is
do
using
you have any
volume
good games? Oh, I
videos
don't
to
know,
capture
sir.
the
Don't know
live
about that.
action
This
performances
sofa
of
is
actors
made.
to
It's
help
designed in
tell the
Norway
game
by.
story.
She goes on for
They're
20 minutes
also
about the sofa
fully
she's sitting on.
recreating the iconic mansion in 3D for the first time. Just don't be surprised if it starts changing shape around you. It is haunted after all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you
In
for
addition to
telling
the
me because
Seventh
I would have been
Guest,
surprised and I would
Vertigo
have
is
felt
working
something.
on Arizona Sunshine 2, a sequel to one of the most popular games from VR's early days. This one people have been waiting to
I really
see
hope we're
for a
still in
long
VR's
time,
early days because if
including
we are not still in VR's early days,
might have seen
you know,
the
This is
CG
what I
trailer
keep
recently,
saying is like
but
I don't
today
think
we
we're in
have
VR's
another
early
short
days
teaser
because
for you.
she's
Time to say
referencing
hello to your
a
old
title that
pal
came out in
Freddy.
what
And hello to your
2015,
new friend as well.
2015, 2016. So it's like which is 7-8 years ago. Like, so yeah, that's why I'm so worried about where VR's going because we need better momentum. We need more exciting shit. And you know, was anybody waiting? She said, "Oh, so many people have been waiting for an Arizona Sunshine sequel." It's like, really? Yeah, you sure
just
about
lie.
that?
But lies. I mean, maybe someone.
Yeah, like
But-
yeah, 12 people have been waiting for it, no doubt. But okay.
You know that only counts as one.
But we literally just watch a show recent? Yeah, the PlayStation.
Arizona Sunshine
one.
2,
Yeah.
you'll survive the
Don't worry,
desolate
she'll
winter
describe
of
everything in
Arizona
detail.
with your new best friend
Maybe
Betty,
I'm just
who
yeah.
you can trust
I've got to use
She's
the
like the-
power of
even when
imagination.
Freddy's are trying to take the bite
Yeah.
It's almost like we're an AI, like
Arizona
we're
Sunshine 2
ChatGPT or
launches
something.
later
She's
this
giving us all the
year,
keywords,
so be sure
and it's
to
up
check
to
out
us to
Quest
imagine.
extended CG
The
reveal
Quest 3
trailer
was
if you haven't
inside
already.
us all along.
Last November, Netflix and Tenderclaws revealed that the hit series
She's like
Stranger
the
Things
the
is
commander
coming
from
to VR.
Battlefield.
I hope you're
She just
comfortable
explains
being upside
everything
down,
to you.
because you're going to be spending
The
a lot
Quest
of
3
time there.
VR nearby
In this
belongs to your
chilling
team.
psychological horror
Put it on your
experience,
head. Click the
you are
power
Vecna,
button to activate
invading
it.
people's minds and conjuring up their worst nightmares as you look to take revenge on Eleven and her friends. Stranger Things VR comes to MetaQuest store later this year.
Can we see it?
And here is a brand new trailer.
Cool.
There you go.
Oh, and you play as the Meat Man bad guy. That's fun.
I saw a means to realize my potential.
I don't know anything about Stranger Things, so
It's now all about a weird naked meat man. Like apparently the whole show started because there was a psychic guy, and Eleven pushed him into a portal, and just the whole show has just been him like just sending meat creatures for some reason to Earth. I can't remember why. I think he's just angry that he's now like a naked meat man trapped in a hell world. That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, teeth around your face in VR, that'd be cool.
Giving me natural selection vibes.
So you can play as a person or a meat man.
Looks like it.
It's time.
Okay.
A lot of L's in chat.
I don't know.
Next, it's time to strap into your omnidirectional mobility gear and prepare to fight the unthinkable.
No. Oh, wait.
Attack on Titan is a
Okay, fair enough. I thought she meant like an actual...
A new peripheral.
Yeah.
Now,
And my
thanks to the
entire
Toy
room gets
Universe,
filled with like a
an
treadmill.
exhilarating VR game.
Fucking bondage
Attack on
straps and
Titan
shit.
VR
Strap in.
Unbreakable
I'm not
lets you
doing that.
Join the Scout Regiment and go head to head with the Titans themselves. Swing through the air using your ODM gear and take down enemies many times your size.
This like intermittent talking. It's killing the
Some of you
flow
may already be familiar with
so
this game
badly.
because we teased it late last year.
It's like anytime that it starts to get exciting with footage, this just slams the brakes
Today
on.
you will.
Yeah, it's like going to therapy or something. Just being talked at by this woman between flashes of psychotic episodes of other dimensions.
Yeah, that reminds me of my actual therapy sessions. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks to them.
Now, is this gameplay, or is it pre-rendered? If it's pre-rendered, then I want to see the actual gameplay because it's probably gonna be jankier than this. Although, you know, Michael's made this.
Yeah, Michael made this, so possible. I do think as well about how these events are like actually predominantly for like investors, shareholders, whatever. And that, I just imagine like a boomer sat there like, what? You fight giant naked men? What the fuck?
In 2011, Polish developer People Can
Oh wait,
Fly,
is Jack gone?
creators behind
Jack's dropped.
Outriders
He's
and
done.
Killer,
That was the fucking straw that
introduced
broke
the
the
world
camel's
to
back. Oh, it's the
skill
Andrew
shots.
show. Hey guys,
Blast
it's just
an
me
enemy out
now.
of the air,
Just me and this
skill
lady.
shot. Kick him into a cactus, skill shot. Crush somebody under a hot dog cart. You get the idea.
I get the idea.
Now imagine how creative you could get with that system in VR. Forget imagining it. We've got it. Here's your first look at Bulletstorm in VR.
Oh, sure, I was about to say, was she talking about Bulletstorm? She is. We got ourselves a Gun Day competitor, people. Yeah. Literally sliding down things, shooting dudes, burping. I don't know, it still looks like it suffers the VR shooter issue of not much strafing. Like, it's very hard to, like, move, strafe, aim and shoot using both your hands. So you have a lot of this, like, stop-start gameplay. It's not fluid. Cool. Oh, there we go. I'm the only one here. Telling me to invite a friend.
This is the Bulletstorm we all know and love. Every skill shot, every story beat, fully recreated from the ground up for VR. And for the first time,
so it's this.
you'll
Oh,
actually
that's
be able to
disappointing. It's the
handle an
same game.
enemy deliver
You have an
devastating
opportunity
blows
to
and mow
make
down
a
hordes of
Bulletstorm
mutated
VR
enemies.
game, and you just ported
Book your ticket to the
Bulletstorm
planet Stygia
into
for later
VR.
this year.
Well,
And
you could
thanks
just,
to People
if you
Can
already
Fly
own
and
Bulletstorm,
Inkipo
just get
for
one of these
bringing
VR
such a fun
injectors,
project to life.
use that, and hey, you've got yourself a free
Before we
copy of
start talking
Bulletstorm
about our
VR, but it
final
isn't like
game,
nerfed with
I
meta
know you've been
graphics.
waiting for an update on Assassin's Creed in VR.
No.
And I have good news.
I don't think any of us
Assassin's
have been
Creed
waiting for that.
Nexus is coming to the MetaQuest store by the end of the year.
Okay.
Tune into Ubisoft Forward on June 12th
Hey,
for the full reveal.
catch us there. We'll
of
be reacting
Assassin's
to that
Creed
as well.
Nexus.
10 a.m. PT. I don't know what that is.
Promised you a deep dive.
I think it's going to be
Let's
6
get into
p.m. BST, 6 p.m. UK time. Ah, Jack's back.
Took us on an epic
internet.
journey.
You missed some epic content. You missed Bulletstorm VR, but it's literally they've just ported Bulletstorm and made like a VR version, so it's the same game again.
Destiny has more
And it's
in
like
store for you.
what a missed opportunity.
From Sanzaro Games and Oculus Studios, this is
Yeah, they're
the
probably
world
gonna see how well
premiere
it sells
of
and then
Asgard's
do a
Wrath
proper
2.
version, maybe. But yeah, I assume that I missed her talking.
You missed a
the screen.
lot. Yes, she submitted several dissertations, and it was very exciting.
Yeah.
He must not be stopped.
Again, never do the pre-rendered stuff and then switch to gameplay, because the difference between the two is stark and not good.
Betrayal has made you
Like just lie to me.
This at least looks like a game, I guess. Have we seen this before?
Exact your vengeance.
I feel like we have, yes. Oh, I like that it's got dismemberment. We don't see enough of that. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's probably perfectly fun. I mean, yeah, I'll give it a go. Although I do. Oh, Asgard's Wrath. That's already out, isn't it? Oh, 2. Okay, yeah.
Asgard's Wrath 2 is an all-new standalone adventure in this epic series. Freed from prison by the Weavers of Fate, you'll set out on a new quest across time and space. From the Norse realms
I want to know why you're telling me this,
to the
because
deserts of ancient
this
Egypt.
to sell it to
Here
me,
on the
because the
Great
trailers
Sand
are
Sea,
over now.
you'll
I
once
think
again
it's the
battle gods and
shareholders.
creatures of myth
Like the
to
shareholders
stop
see the
Loki
footage,
from
but they're like,
upending
I don't
all
get what's
creation.
going on here. This is
When the original Asgard's
this
Wrath
is for the
released
kids.
on PC
She's
VR,
giving you like
it
the
wowed players with its
what would you call it? The
jaw-dropping
summary
scale,
essentially. This is the
brutal
blurb,
physics-based
so that they
combat,
can more
and
easily
stunning
understand what's
graphics.
going on.
Asgard's Wrath 2 will set a whole new standard for
The
wireless
Asgard's
VR.
Wrath will set a whole new
This is
standard.
the deep and
You go
immersive
through the
action
deserts.
RPG
Okay, I get
that
it.
you've been
Kids love
waiting
fighting
for.
in deserts. It's setting a new
Packing
standard. Cool.
enormous,
Will this
free-roaming
increase the share
environments,
price or not?
gorgeous visuals, and well over 60 hours of exploration and tense
60
combat.
hours, okay, check
It's
that on the
MetaQuest
spreadsheet.
2
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good.
and
Yeah.
MetaQuest 3. Today, my friend Matt Kramer, head of design at Sanzaro Games, will take us on a tour of the team's groundbreaking title. Everything you're about to see was captured in-game. Matt, the mic's yours.
Thanks, Ruth. I'm so excited to show everyone what we've been working on at Sanzaro these last few years. Asgard's Wrath 2 picks up where the first game left off, in a mysterious tavern you can't escape from. You're suddenly thrust into battle with a giant creature, clearly from another realm. Just
I
when
don't get
you
this
think
type
all
of
is lost, you encounter the Weavers of
thing,
Fate,
like,
a trio of
if you get
beings
on a-
that set you off
talking
upon
through
your
us-
adventure to
Talking
find
through
and
the
stop
game with
Loki.
us like this makes me not want to play it.
So just how much
Yeah, it's
bigger
like
is
yeah,
this game?
patronizing. Like I'm
Not
being
only will you
talked
travel
down
to
to by a
new
teacher.
Asgardian locations,
Well,
like
the big,
Muspelheim,
like,
the land
let's
of
take
fire, the Weavers
Kojima's
of Fate
trailers.
will also
He doesn't
bring
sit
you
there
to
and
new
say,
realms, like
in
the
Metal Gear
vast
Solid
desert
4,
expanse
you
of
will pick
ancient
up
Egypt.
where he just
These
shows you
massive
footage and
worlds
weird things, and it
beyond
gets
the
your
scope
brain
of
thinking
any
about
other
stuff.
game on the MetaQuest
This is
platform.
like this is
Come
again
alive
telling,
in Asgard's
and they
Wrath
are showing
2.
footage of the game,
Die
not explaining
with
it. But
temples,
yeah, it's like shareholder stuff, like explaining to
caves and
investors rather than.
It's like in the Metal Gear
Characters
Solid
to
5 trailer when they're showing off like the open world and then it
monsters to
speeds up and he hides in the van and then he uses the cigarette to speed up the time, and it times it with the music kicking in. It's like, it's awesome, and it's like, it's straight up telling you how the game works, but it's showing it in an example of a gameplay flow, and it times it with the awesome iconic music, and it's like unforgettable shit. Whereas this is just, it's words, like, stop talking so much.
Just show. Seem like something being shown to a room full of business people.
This map and still not discover all its secrets. You might decide to prove your combat prowess by hunting rare, high-level monsters that roam the sands, or gather plants or animal parts to craft useful consumable goods, such as bait to attract wildlife.
Nice, I like that.
That provides a
Animal abuse, that's great.
Benefit wherever you throw it. But it's not all about survival. Kick back and fish, or beat your high score at the slingshot shooting gallery. There's no shortage of stuff to do and see outside the primary quest line. These worlds are so big, you're going to want some more speed as you move through them. Luckily, you'll have the power of a god at your fingertips. As with Asgard's Wrath, you'll be able to transform a few brave animals into unique warrior followers to help you solve puzzles and eviscerate enemies. New in this game, they'll serve as powerful mounts that can carry you swiftly across the
I mean, yeah, I probably enjoy playing this. I might look. But this type of selling it is like,
it's working against it, right? Like that was like Panther, like horseback style gameplay in VR. That looks really fucking good, but it's being ruined by this guy constantly talking. It's like, just show me the good shit. It's almost like they don't have confidence in it. Like
it's like not letting your imagination have any room to breathe. You know, they, like you say about Metal Gear, you see stuff and then you imagine what it's like. Whereas this guy is literally explaining everything to you, and it just demystifies it and makes it less exciting. It's good for if you're a shareholder.
That's what I mean. Is like it speaks to like a lack of confidence in what is actually being shown, which is bizarre because it looks good. So is it not good? Is this actually all like bullshit and it plays like shit, or is it good? And people are just so worried that VR isn't going well that they're being told, like, really, you need to sell the positives as much as possible. And it's like, okay, you're coming across as, like, desperate. It's like incel energy, like, please let me fuck you, please! It's like,
I think they've been told to do this by Meta. Meta doesn't understand how to market things to gamers.
No, clearly. Clearly not. But it's like, and in
turn,
turn,
told, like, if you don't literally explain for 15 minutes how your game plays, the kids will never understand it. The kids / shareholders will never understand it.
With his boomerang axe, whip sword, and blade.
Yeah, and in turn, it is actually harming. It's harming the sales strategy. Like things which people might actually like and might actually go out and buy a VR headset to buy. They're not going to, because the marketing is actually working against the product.
I mean, it's a good thing that I'll forget all of this as soon as it's over. But yeah, it makes it feel very dry and clinical.
In the first game, the combat favored a defense-first approach, meaning you had to block and parry a series of enemy attacks before you had a chance to remove their runic shields. This loop had to be completed 3 or 4 times.
It's about game loops.
And he's also talking about like the problems of the previous game.
Yeah.
He's literally saying like in the previous game you had to do these loops too many times, so like we fixed that. And it's like, cool, that's good, but don't say that in the fucking trailer. Because that's telling me don't go and play that game. Like if this looks like
tell us how much health this guy has, and you know, he's got just boil it all down to numbers, and don't let us experience anything ourselves of this. It's very clinical, dry. It doesn't feel like it's for gamers. It feels like it's for investors to just be wowed by all this. You guys really know it sound like they're talking about game loops. I've never heard of game loops before.
Yeah.
But you'll need to change up your approach.
Yeah, it's starting really affect me mentally. Like I'm starting to face a mental health crisis.
You'll also unlock new skills and abilities as you level up, letting you invest.
Yeah, that gym, they unlock new skills and abilities. Thank God we put our money into this. But it's not for people who want to experience a world and play. This is for shareholders, and investors, or business people.
You'll also discover relics you can slot into your weapons and armor that will provide you with powerful buffs,
Oh.
like adding fire damage to
There you
your
go,
weapon
Jim.
or
The kids
heal
love
over
relics.
time,
I was gonna.
allowing you to customize your weapon set.
Can we fast forward real life?
I was hovering over like the skip button. Like, can I make it go faster? I can't. I just muted it. I can't handle listening to this guy. So we're just gonna have some.
This guy's like someone that you meet like on a bus or a train, and he says something that seems interesting. Just he talks apropos nothing, you know, making small talk, and he says something that's actually interesting, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And he detects that you're interested,
Yeah. So
and then talks for 45 hours about crap.
goes autism mode on you.
Yeah.
Honestly, like this like kind of interaction, this to me is like talking. Like the average person is like this. The average person just like blithers at you endlessly about like complete unimportant useless fucking shit and doesn't take any social cue, you know, when your eyes are like drooping and you're like, yeah, sure, why not, thanks, okay, sure,
And
why
it's
not.
better like this actually, but it's better in total silence because I'm watching what's going on with the gameplay and like seeing that he's cutting dudes in half and he's grappling and floating around. I can actually, yeah, it's better.
Yeah. Hey, thumbs up. That's fun. Give it a
But he would
thumbs
have
up.
been like, players can use their thumbs to put their thumbs up, which is a form of acknowledgement in a physical way between people.
Yeah,
And you can float
people's
through dimensions and
and across time through many civilizations have used the thumbs up to denote positive. Okay, sure, why not? Yes, I understand.
it's better like this.
Yeah, honestly, it does. It looks like a pretty good game. Well, I've never heard of the original because I've just not been.
I've seen the original. The original has been a game that I've been looking to try because again, the VR space doesn't have a huge number of things going on. This is one of the things that stands out.
Yeah, like you know when the lady at the start was saying like 60 hours. I think the dude said it as well. It's like you didn't need to say that. I mean, I guess for the shareholders you do, but I'm getting that from this. Like we've seen so much content. It's like this is great. Oh, lost connection. I'll come back in a second. Yeah, I mean it's a repeating issue of VR games is there's just not much to them. You know, once you've played them for an hour or two, you've experienced everything. But like we're seeing constant new stuff on screen. We're seeing eagles and demons and panthers and pickups and unlocks and you know ladies and lizards that you can split in two. It's like no doubt.
He's probably gonna be talking and his voice just gets faded out. He's just gonna be talking forever.
Okay, now head over to the MetaQuest store because pre-orders of Asgard's Wrath 2 are open. Pre-order and you'll get a copy of the original Asgard's
not
Wrath
gonna pre-order.
on PC. You don't have to play it before, but it'll add some
I might get the original as well. But is it going to be $89.99?
Great Sandsea home environment I'm standing in now.
I mean, I think as long as the game's great, I don't mind that. Like, well, maybe not $89.99, but you know, a lot of VR games are $20, like $25, $30 for a reason. It's because they don't have much to them, and it's like, yeah, if you're giving me 60 hours or you know 1,000 days of experiences, yeah, I'm happy to pay more as long as the game's good, as long as I have fun with it.
That's the end of our main showcase.
Oh.
But stick around for more, because up next, we have some of the most passionate
Well,
VR creators sitting down to discuss the games from the show. And while you're there, we're running a sale on favorites like NFL Pro
Get the word
Resident
discuss.
Evil 4,
Discuss sounds like
Among Us,
talking.
many more. And like
More
last
words.
year, we're also
Yeah.
giving
No,
away
I'm all
this
worded
awesome
out,
room I'm
guys.
standing in.
I don't think I can
It's
deal with
available
it.
now in
That was like an
settings and
audiobook.
home environments. Of course, there's so much more we want to share with you. We plan
Please,
to announce more
we're
games,
full.
major updates to existing titles,
Stop talking.
and we've got a whole new headset to
Stop.
launch.
Shut your
Thank you
mouth,
so much
woman.
for tuning in, and thanks to the
Won't
developers
stop.
who helped put the show together. Keep playing, and we'll see you next year.
I'm gonna need a
That's-
year.
that's
I need a fucking break from her for a full year, a full 12 months. Deal with that trauma. Oh, I'm gonna have fucking nightmares of her blabbering at me.
So in summary,
I'm going to be in so much trouble if
oh no,
this actually looks a lot like Quest 6. The Ecto 1? Oh yeah, that's still parked at my place.
Oh, it's the blooper
no,
reel.
I'm not getting it back.
Dude, do you
God,
think
I thought the blooper reel would be like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Hi
Oh.
everyone, I'm Travis Williams, head of production at Oculus Publishing. We hope you enjoyed our showcase and are excited for all the awesome games. We gathered some of our talented developers.
Okay, we're just... Hey guys, I'm Travis. We hope you enjoyed that. We've got a lot of awesome games.
The different cadence is appreciated after all of that.
I just
Again, like it's just like the last event, the Sony one. Generally a flat line with some little blips of interesting things. So Underdogs was interesting.
Underdogs, that looked great. That was doing a lot of things that we've sort of thought about with Kill Machine. So big fan of that. I'm just I'm just readjusting our OBS stuff. So currently off screen, getting it fixed. Boopa da beepa.
Asgard's Wrath, aside from basically being lectured at about it for a long time, I'll give that a go. Yeah, it looks good. It looks like an actual proper RPG game in VR, so that's cool. That Dungeons, whatever multiplayer game could be fun. Playing with friends if it's got fun things to do in it.
Yeah, I mean it's like there was some good stuff in there, but yeah, generally quite a flat line. And again, I'd say like half the battle there is marketing, half the battle there is presentation. That even the stuff that we liked, we're muting the stuff that we like because they're presenting it so poorly. And again, I've got to assume that the average gamer, like if you're not a VR, again, the litmus test is if you're not a VR gamer, was that something that's going to make you go out and buy a Quest 2 or pre-order a Quest 3? Are you going to be excited? Nah, not really. Don't think so.
I think
Can't see that happening.
Someone without VR, and maybe the problem is disposable income. If people right now they don't necessarily have the money to buy these devices. But Asgard's Wrath is the big one, and they obviously devoted the most time to that one.
Yeah.
However, the question is, right, there's going to be a new Elder Scrolls coming out soon. I say soon, who knows? But you're going to have to compete with that. And sure, Asgard's Wrath has got the physicality, which is great, but what if Elder Scrolls plugged in the VR stuff, then you've got a system seller, I guess. Although, again, you can play it without VR, I guess.
Which
like
people have done that, whether it's like official or just like modding in. So
there is Skyrim VR and Fallout VR,
yeah.
So they probably will. My point on this is that I hope that Bethesda would have day one parity. Like you can play it in VR, or you can play it screen space, kind of like what we're trying to do with everything that we do at Enemy Team.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said it at the start of the show that if you can do stuff in a VR game, like we've seen in many of these and in the Winter Showcase, etc., if you can do stuff that could just as easily be done in screen space, then it's like, well, those screen space games are generally better because they're not built with the constraints of VR at a minimum. And people either mod in VR support for those things, or eventually they get a VR update, and so they just reign supreme. So the VR game, to stand on its own 2 feet, has to do stuff that you cannot do in a normal game space. And it's like what we're doing with Gun Day, where it's like you cannot in a normal game, while dual wielding and aiming in different directions, like wall run into a cartwheel and then slide down a wall and end up on the floor and backflip off of that. Like there's just not there's no equivalent experience in screen space gaming or in VR gaming as well, because that's another thing, is a lot of these VR titles, like even like Asgard's Wrath, it's like, yeah, but it's a sequel, it's doing stuff that we've seen before. Or like she said at the beginning, like, oh, we've got loads of rhythm games, and it's like, yeah, like Beat Saber, we've been doing that for quite a while. Again, it's great, but there needs to be more stuff to drive this medium forwards and to expand the overall player base. So that's what we're trying to do with Gun Day, and I'm just not seeing that really from everybody else. It's just it's very, very safe by the numbers stuff presented quite poorly. And you're right, like we are in an economic downturn, but that didn't stop like Xbox during the financial crash, or it's not stopping like the Switch selling, gangbusters, and Tears of the Kingdom selling gangbusters right now. So it's like I always view it as like, there's a lot of L's in chat right now. I don't know what's going on screen, but everyone is just spamming L. So somebody has said something negative. But yeah, so it's like, look, when people go, hey, it's too expensive, like you see that a lot with the PS5 and the PSVR 2. It's like, no, it's not too expensive. It's too expensive for what's being offered. If there was a game that makes you fucking like double backflip or orgasm every time you play it, that's worth $500 plus $500 more for the headset. it's that nothing really does that. Nothing wows you. Nothing really sticks with you. I can't imagine what, like 95% of the VR games that exist right now, or even anything we saw in that showcase. There's not going to be like YouTube videos in 20 years of people listening to the soundtracks of these games and having like nostalgia overloads. Like I was listening to like the Lilac Wars menu music a few days ago just on loop, and all the comments are like, this takes me back, a better time. I remember, my brother died and this song reminds me of him. Like, emotional attachments to things. It's like, I've never got that really from like any VR experience. And maybe that's just symptomatic of like we live in an era that's like shit and falling apart, where people just are constrained and are just going for the like the status quo. What would you call it? Like just going for whatever makes money the quickest and the cheapest, and therefore you don't have those quality experiences that make you feel anything. Maybe it's just that like this iteration of VR has just come about in the wrong time period, but it doesn't change the fact that that's what's happening.
I think that we are hopefully on the beginnings of that though, because I think a lot of VR games have basically been tech demos and then glorified tech demos.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to have the sort of creative spark that produces things like those soundtracks and those memories. They're just sort of fun fuck around things basically. But I'm with things like Asgard's Wrath and Underdogs and all that. I think we're starting to see a tiny like sea change transition towards actual games. Half-Life Alyx sort of represented that to me as well. That's an actual game that is in VR and works really well in VR. And I think that we are slowly going to start to move into that creative spark position, I guess. I don't know, where basically you get games that are in VR and all the mechanics have been figured out because the tech demo stuff has now been done and people know how to do climbing and bow and arrow and moving around and stuff. People are accustomed to it. So now you can tell your stories in that format, and now you can make your sort of artistic, creative masterpiece.
Oh, please don't tell your stories, guys. More words.
No, you know what I mean.
I
It's
get
like
what you mean. Yeah.
The creativity and the creative spark. Not words. We have had enough words and enough writing and talking and voice acting, but those soundtracks, for example, and those worlds, I think that the reason that they haven't come to exist yet is because I guess a lot of VR is finding its feet and it's taking a while. But I think that it's from what I just saw there with things like Asgard's Wrath 2, that is pointing towards the right sort of direction of big open, big RPG worlds in VR. Hopefully doing things that you can't just do outside of VR. But yeah, I think that we are like 1% closer in that direction, which is a positive trend. That's all I asked, so that's all I can ask for, really.
Yeah, I'm obviously, as ever, more cynical on this point. I think I genuinely at this point think like it's up to us. It's which sounds super fucking arrogant, and it is, but I think it's also true because I'm just not seeing that. I don't see that trend line of people stepping up. Like I think you're right. Like what maybe like that was, I would say that was like 1 to like 5% more interesting than say like the Winter Showcase. But again, it's like we need 100%. We're currently at 0% interesting. That to me has been VR for the past, well, since Palmer Luckey first created. Since when he made that first headset, VR was exciting. And then we all started playing VR games, and it was like, we all had that like cope period where it's like, well, it's DK1, it's not that great, but it will get better. And it's like from then till now, which is an 8-year period, we've moved like 1% forward. So I really do think it's got to come down to people who aren't aiming for, we've got to get on the quest and we've got to be part of like we should not be aiming, as we haven't been for like a year, we should not be aiming for like meta publishing. We should not be aiming for to be working with Vertigo, Koch, whatever they're called now, PlayOn, Dreams, like, because all of them are presenting just very safe by the numbers experiences. Where and to be fair, there was things like Underdogs in there. Was it called Underdogs? Yeah, Underdogs. Yeah. That looked better, but again, it's like still not a system seller. Still, in my opinion, that's not something that anybody's like doing backflips over. We're literally doing a game where you do like backflips and shit. Like that's the kind of stuff that also Which is why, you see me do this with all of our games. Like, I focus in a lot on, like, what is the style? What is the music? What are the characters? Because it's like, that shit is also really important. It isn't just good enough that I'm fighting monsters. It's got to be like, I got to feel cool. And there has to be a soundtrack that goes with that I'm going to be listening to on YouTube in 20 years reminiscing about. Like, it all has to come together. So, and no one, it just feels like no one cares. There's a lot of money going into this, but it's money going in not because, like, why, you've identified this and other people have talked about it. It's like, why is Meta doing this? Why are they seemingly shifting to, like, headset every year or two? You're right, it's mobile orientated because they're trying to distinguish the Meta brand as something, they're moving on from Facebook, and they also want to move on from being dependent on Android and Apple devices.
Yeah, because the advertising shenanigans that they went through.
And thus all of this that we're seeing is simply a means to an end to enable that ultimate goal. Same with, like, you look at Netflix games, and they've got 60 games out, and they've got another, like, they've got something absurd like 60 games in development, both in-house and through third-party partners. And it's like, that's just a tidal wave of titles to get desperately to try and get people to hold on to their Netflix subscriptions. Like, that's it. It's just pure growth, where not many people actually in the mix. I'm sure there would be people like us at these studios who do give a shit, but they're being directed and, what would you say, like, completely controlled by people whose goals are not to create the best game ever, but it is to make sure that there are 60 games, and that one of those 60 games has 1,000 hours of content. The usual shit that we've had to deal with, just bean counting.
And that's why that was presented in that fashion. It wasn't for us or gamers. It was for investors and shareholders, and for people, the business people, to say, "Oh, thank God we've got this game in development, and thank God we've got that game in development, because this ticks all the boxes, and the spreadsheet says it should be a success." That's where a lot of games, I think, come from these days. Where it's not about the creative spark. The creative spark is not factored in at all, because it's a completely artificial thing from the beginning. There's no story someone needs to tell. There's no mechanic someone desperately wants to experiment with. Like Gunday basically is just because I want to be in the Matrix doing like cartwheels and flipping around and kung fu, and so I'm just making that, not paying attention to what anything else is being done in VR, following our own rules, doing things in the face of established VR rules, because I think a lot of those rules were established to as part of this sort of discovery phase in VR, which is how can you make the product appeal to the broadest number of people. Oh, people get motion sick. Okay, well, we need to desperately cut down on motion sickness.
Yep.
That reduces the potential customer base, and if the customer base is reduced, then how are we going to advertise them on our bespoke hardware, which has nothing to do with Apple anymore?
Yeah, and right on screen right now, they're all dressed up in Ghostbusters uniforms, clearly to talk about that game, and it's like, what do people love? They love that movie from 1986, so let's do that.
I think Ghostbusters is interesting because who loves that? The investors, the people who are the same age as the businessmen and the investors.
Yeah,
they really loved Ghostbusters when they were kids.
So that that's why we're getting Ghostbusters. It's like, we should be getting some kind of ghost fighting game, and it should be new, unconstrained from that IP. It should be bold. It should be exciting. It should be something that you can look towards the future and be excited about. I don't get like that. They're wearing the beige jumpsuits and it's the proton pack, and it's like, I've been seeing that since before I was fucking born. Like, it's been 40 years of Ghostbusters. We're done with it. It's fine, great. Like, can we leave it in the past and do something new? Which is why I've said, like, Gunday would be a perfect candidate for, like, and no doubt, I mean, we already had this last year. People go, well, why don't you pitch that? Get Lionsgate to turn it into a John Wick game, or this, that, or the other, or pitch it to be a Matrix game. And it's like, we've had those. That's all part of the system. That's already part of the established status quo infrastructure. They're not gonna want to do anything that rocks the boat, that's edgy, that's interesting or different. They're gonna want to slap an IP on something and sell as many of it as possible, as cheaply as possible. So we want nothing to do with that. And that's what, in my view, gaming used to largely be that in the post Nintendo revival of the 80s, 90s, noughties. It was a lot of like, we have to make new stuff. We have to. Like, when Microsoft finally got Halo, that wasn't good enough. They also needed like PGR, and they needed Mech Warrior games, and they got Perfect Dark to make, not Perfect Dark, Rare to make a bunch of stuff, and then they got Gears of War. Like, it was, we need more. exciting, interesting new stuff in different genres, different styles, etc., etc. We just don't live in that era anymore. It's just an
I
era
think
of
that
sequels and IP just flogging.
I think that at that point in time, when they needed more and more, they needed more variety in their lineup, and they needed. I think there's also a bit more savvy about how they were doing stuff. Like the people who were making the decisions probably played games and probably had a lot of experience working in games, and therefore they could discern quality ideas. Things like Gears of War, they could see that has potential. Now, I think that a lot of those people are no longer in the industry, but the incentive, the requirement for having more and more is still there, but it's more a case of just the volume. Like you can have 15 rhythm games because you know Beat Saber's done well enough to justify whatever.
Well, and
And there isn't the savvy as well that the people who are making these decisions, they couldn't spot at Gears of War, they couldn't spot the next big thing, even if it was being done by Epic or something like that.
well, and they
They're
don't need to either, because the competition, the competitive field has completely changed. Like, you know, I was doing this research into like VCs in the gaming sphere, and it's like 10 years ago there were no VCs. You know, 10 years ago there wasn't an Embracer Group, there wasn't an Enad 7, Toadman Interactive, like all these holding companies that have basically literally taken a hold of the entire industry. That shit didn't exist. So if you wanted to remain competitive and remain on top in the industry in the past, like you were that natural competitive field forced you to invest in new ideas, in really creative out there IPs. You had to, because if you didn't, your competitors would snatch them up, or do a deal with them, and then you're fucking shit out of luck. Which is, you know, in case of Halo, that's exactly what happened. Microsoft gave him money, stole them from Apple. You know, Apple lost a major gaming franchise that would have really helped them, and thus the Mac was never considered a gaming platform. And conversely, the Xbox was considered the gaming platform of choice because of that game. So it's like, but now everybody, you know, like I covered in the show a few days ago, yeah, Enad 7 shit canning Antimatter, who made Rising Storm and Rising Storm 2, and they were working on two amazing games. I went back and looked at one of their financial reports from like literally 6 months ago, and a big part of it was this, again, it was much more droll than this, but it was a shareholder meeting where the guy's like, and we've got a bunch of games coming out, Antimatter's working on 83 and I, and those are going to be, you know, well-selling, highly successful titles, and then 6 months later they just they fire everybody, and then in their press release said this will have a minimal impact on cost and will actually result in increased profits because we have far less outgoings. And it's like, that's, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had to take risks to stay on top. Now it's considered if you take risks, you'll be on bottom. So by not taking risks is how you stay on top. And that's how we get all of these just like 3 out of 10 droll, like emotionless experiences, because the people at the top, whether they are capable of picking out great games or not, it's that they have there's just no incentive structure anymore, which I think it does sound like a massive black pill, but as I keep saying, I think that there lies the advantage for us, is you've got gamers going to the Meta event or Ubisoft or whatever PlayStation showcase, and they come away from it going like, well, that was boring. Like, everyone's saying 3 out of 10 and posting L's. So all we have to do is just get our shit in front of people, and all of that negative energy is ours for the taking, and instantly turning it into like positive energy, because it's like, yes, we are actually delivering something new. We are actually delivering something exciting for you.
I think a lot of this is basically there's just a lot more information and data now that these business people can rely on. They can say, you know, back in the days of Gears of War 1 or before then, you know, early 2000s, they didn't have the volume of data. There wasn't social media. The internet wasn't as big a deal as it is now.
Yep.
Nowadays, they're probably tripping over it. They have mountains of data, and they can say probably with precision, this thing did well, this thing did poorly, and so they can just look for the formulas now. They don't have to invest any particular interest in anything. They don't have to observe things and take risks. They can say, this works, this doesn't work. Shoehorn this into that, sell that company, acquire that company. They can just follow the spreadsheet, you know, and so that's why we end up in this bland situation where games are kind of. If I do have a theory that the reason that games these days, the AAA games at least, are, you know, kind of crappy and disappointing on release, is because the spreadsheets and the data says players will put up with that.
Yep.
No Man's Sky could have contributed, for example, to that data, and they said No Man's Sky everyone was disappointed when it came out, but it still sold very well, and the franchise has gone on to better and bigger and better things. So
I think No Man's Sky and its consequences have been a disaster for the world of gaming, because that I totally believe that gave the green light to everybody in power. Went, wow, they lied to everyone, straight up lied. Like, I'm happy to say that they fucking lied. They deceived everybody. They built up massive amounts of hype. They utilized every trick in the book to do it, paying off journalists, paying off influencers, everything. Because none of those, all of the preview coverage was saying it's going to be great, and yes, it's going to be the game of your dreams. How did they all make that mistake when none of that existed? So they used every trick in the book, released a giant piece of shit that was not anywhere near what they were saying that they were going to sell, and then utilized all of the profits from that to improve it over like a 5+ year period. And then they get all the success, you get all these articles going, oh, from shit to hit, they've turned it around, isn't that a great story, and this is a celebration, it's positive. And our kind of acceptance, our mask, kind of gaming world going, hey, yeah, that's actually kind of all right, and maybe I will buy it now. I definitely think was a huge green light to these people. Same with the MCC Master Chief Collection. That was literally broke for like 7-8 years. But it's now, the MCC has more people playing it than Halo Infinite. So it just shows you, like, hey, and that's probably why Halo Infinite sucks, because they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, today, not many people like it, and they say it's a broken piece of shit. But when we get it fixed, people will come back. And even if they don't, where are they going to go to get their Halo fix? And we're not going to live or die on Halo. We have other revenue streams, obviously, as Microsoft. So it doesn't affect them.
they can also decide not to fix it. They can be like, they can say, look, it's sunk cost fallacy. It's not worth it. And at least that way, we haven't invested all this money into a finished product. We released a half-finished product, and people loved it, but we didn't need to finish it. You know, so
and again, like, they're not going to say it, but what they are saying is like, and what are you going to fucking do about it? You can't force us to fix it. If you go and buy a competitive console, like, doesn't affect us. We're still making money. We could be doing this shit at a loss, and we're still not going to die. And that's what a lot of these holding companies can do as well. Like, outside of the major, like, platform holders, holding companies can do the same thing. And what do they do when they do face any kind of financial issues, any kind of heightening of the risk profile? They can just look at a section of their portfolio, like Enad 7 did with Antimatter, and just kill them. And they're doing that quick. Antimatter was still advertising jobs in January of this year, and then they announced that they began the shutdown process in Q2, like now, and that it will be wrapped up by Q3. So they went from start of the year, Antimatter's making 2 of our major titles, to 2 months later they go, we're going to kill them, and they've already put a plan together that they are absolutely conclusively happy will shut things down within 2 to 3 months. But they retain the IPs, all of that development work, so it still sits in the hopper as like, well, we could resurrect it later, or we could just make another I game in 10-15 years, and the cycle continues. And it's like, so yeah, there's just no competition. There's no real competition anymore. Any competition that we do see is just like astroturfed and fake, essentially. But again, sounds negative, but this cannot last, because people are clearly unhappy, and there will come a point where that snaps. And the way to accelerate that is obviously by making something that's amazing.
I see a big gap emerging. People who are just looking at AAA games and becoming more and more skeptical and more concerned, and less likely to just blindly pre-order and take day one purchases, etc. They will be more open to trying indie games out, and I think that's where a lot of indie games will find success, because they will basically steal customer base from disillusioned fans of franchises. So yeah, I think it's kind of a good thing for us, basically. People like us.
Oh, it's hugely positive. We do have some questions in chat, and then we'll wrap things up. We got B Loves asking, how do I play Gun Day? The answer is you can't. You're not allowed, because it's nowhere near finished. It's currently in a sort of prototype. It's actually kind of approaching a pre-alpha state, I'd say, but it's still in a prototype phase. But the best way to keep up with what we're doing with Gun Day is just make sure you follow us. We're going to be putting out a lot more shorts and videos on YouTube and TikTok, so just make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're going to be talking about Gun Day pretty much every week, because every week something major changes for the better with it. So yeah, just make sure you follow us, and that's how you'll keep up with it. And I don't know what our plans are at the moment with Gunday. I mean, we don't have a plan in terms of release because we're just working on it and testing the waters, but we've always envisioned going down like the early access route with our games, unless we get like crazy funding or a massive uptick. But probably like early access slash Patreon builds. We do have a Patreon. You can support us there as well. I think that's probably going to be the earliest point people could play Gunday, is like through our Patreon. So just make sure you follow us, and if you want to sign up, give us a bit of money, then that would be lovely. We also have Agent G saying, I don't think spreadsheet people factor in the risks and issues of actual development. Some mechanics may not work when you're iterating on, and that's not been factored in. Yeah, I mean, like, we've been doing this for years. Our experience is like what they want you to do anytime you're pitching, whether you've got an idea of a game or a game in development, they want you to provide the full production schedule, which is insane. Like, they want everything laid out. Even if you tell them, like, look, we're in a discovery phase to the game, and I can't say this will take 3 weeks to make because it's an unknown. It has to be experimented and iterated on, and sometimes you do work and go down a route for quite a while and realize this is the wrong path for this game. We got to reverse course and undo a lot of work. They do factor it in, but they don't like that, and they want you to put bullshit constraints on that design, so that when things inevitably do change, that gives them more leverage. Like, we've had that with products. And who was it recently? It might have been the Redfall devs were saying somebody left, not Bethesda, Arcane. Somebody left and I think it was Redfall, but saying like, oh no, that was it, Battlefield. Some dude left DICE, and he was saying, even though Battlefield 2042 went through massive changes in terms of design, like the weather phenomenon stuff at one point was like much more important to the game's design. He was like, even though that radically changed, and at one point it did turn into like a battle royale, like it was fully battle royale designed, and then they went back on that. All of the deadlines remained exactly the same. And it's like, so that's why it released as a piece of shit, because the developers were probably doing the right thing. They were iterating and experimenting, and they were probably also getting bullshit. Somebody higher up the chain was going, Battle Royales are the big thing now. I heard my little kid in his room was playing a Battle Royale game. You need to turn it into that. So they go, okay, fuck, we got to completely change the design. And then other directives come in, and there was just basically no like give or take. So yeah, they're fully aware of the risks of development, and what they don't want and what they're trying to mold the industry into is like the production line. They know that actually making games is like, the risk profile is through the roof. You have to be insane to make video games. You have to have a screw loose, because it's so unbelievably bleedingly fucking difficult. Even to just copy and paste other people's designs is still a challenge, because you got to figure out, how did they do that? I've now got to build it. So then to actually come up with something original and creative that also works in the market, that isn't just something you want to do, but actually loads of people want to buy, is crazy difficult to do. These people hate that. The people in charge hate games. They just want products that make money, which is why I keep saying on the show, they keep using the word platform and everything. Our game is a platform. We're interested in platform-based games and live services and yada yada. It's because what they're interested in is extracting money from the consumer through any means possible. And so this is why when we try and pitch a game, they go, well, give us the full 24-month production schedule today. And you go, not possible, but I'll bullshit it to you. Only when you do that, now they've got leverage. Now they can hold you to that and withhold money if you don't hit those goals. That's why you have crunch. That's why you have people like committing suicide. And ultimately they want to get the world to, I think they want to get like console gaming, PC gaming to the state that mobile gaming's at, where it's just everybody is making, a Bejeweled clone, a Candy Crush clone, a whatever clone, with a different monetization strategy and a different IP whapped on it. It's just, that's what they want to mold and shift console and PC gaming into. And I think they're succeeding. It's slowly and steadily, the boiling frog, they're turning the temperature up. And as fewer holding companies own more of the industry, this problem will only get worse.
Yeah, it's about turning games into, washing machines or some other thing where you just have a blueprint, you just put it on the production line, and at the end, after a certain amount of time, you have a washing machine and you can put it out in the shop and sell it. That's what they want to turn video games into. But obviously, video games are a creative medium. However, they also are software.
And they despise that fact. Yeah,
Yeah, that's an inconvenience. But the software aspect, you can follow the software approach because plenty of software is built in that same sort of like factory way because it's not designed to inspire people or to be amazing to behold or fun. It's just supposed to fulfill a function. And the function of these games now is to get you to buy microtransactions to pay for things.
Look at Diablo 4. It's absolutely jam. Like if you don't buy the super mega edition of the game, you're only getting like half the game. And then even if you spend $80, you've got like $28 microtransactions immediately waiting for you in game. It sucks, and that's rapidly becoming the status quo. But again, the advantage for us is we just have to not be greedy and not, we just need to build a great game and not think in terms of how do we make money out of our consumer. It's like that question to us, the answer's obvious. Make a great game and charge a reasonable amount for it. And if we add content to it, charge a reasonable amount for that. Simple. We don't have to be thinking about platforms. We don't have to be thinking about like engagement. We don't need to hire psychologists to and like A/B testers and all this kind of stuff. Like Sega acquiring Rovio. What did they say? Why have we spent like $4 billion on Rovio? It's because of their monetization systems. That's it. They're not buying Rovio because they make great, amazing games. They're buying Rovio because they're going, hey, how can we make the Sonic IP make us more money week on week, year on year? Well, we'll hire these guys who are experts at tricking like kids and middle-aged women on the sofa, watching Come Dine With Me while playing a Bejeweled game. How can we trick them into buying us, not only downloading the Sonic game, but then giving us like £5 every day? That's it. And it's gross, it's disgusting, and it's not the future I want for gaming, but it's the future that we're getting.
Yeah, because it has worked. I do think that it's going to have its day. I don't think it's going to last forever because people pick up on this. We're picking up on the fact that these AAA games are just shoddy now. They're just shoddily made. People are going to be stung so many times. There's been phases like this before in other forms. I think like the Kickstarter phase as well. There was that golden age for Kickstarters, and now, if you're gonna have a Kickstarter now, it's kind of like people might look at you with a raised eyebrow because there's been so many scams and things on it.
Yeah,
people are wary. So I think that there will be a kind of a counter. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a counter movement from these big studios and say they would, like EA saying things like, "Hey, don't you hate microtransactions? We've got the new Battlefield has nothing. You spend 50 quid and you've got it."
It's funny you say that. We're already seeing that Ubisoft shooter. What's it called? It's a free-to-play. We're gonna see it in the PlayStation 4. X-Defiant. The X-Defiant trailer for their like pre-alpha early access thing. They literally say that in the trailer, and they were like, free-to-play, but don't worry, we're not gonna ever implement any like pay-to-win systems. And it's like, but you guys have done that shit in the past. Like, that's exactly the mechanics of you. You may as well be like, don't worry, we're not going to do loot boxes or overcharge you on DLC. It's like, oh, all the shit that you're doing literally right now in other products and have been doing for the past 10 years. So you're right, they're already doing that, and that will be the thing. But that's the great thing about having a monopolized system. And again, I know I've said this a lot, like, the monopoly can be made up of different entities. Like, we don't have one entity controlling the whole industry, but because actually the power is held by such a small few, they can do this. Like, they can almost control the pendulum swing. Like, it doesn't matter if a pendulum is swinging away from loot boxes, because they just immediately pivot and go, yeah, loot boxes suck. We're doing a free-to-play game with no loot boxes. And it's like, oh, right. And so when it swings the other way and people forget about loot boxes, you'll just start implementing them and go, hey, these games don't have loot boxes. They're not as fun and as engaging. Buy our game.
When you're in that position, that sort of unassailable kind of monopoly, invisible monopoly position, you can do shock tests on the whole gaming landscape. You could do a shock test on the whole gaming economy. You can say, what if we did release a game which has no microtransactions and that's its main thing? And if that shock reverberates through the games sphere and people love it, you now have data on that, and you could anything. It could be, what happens if we release a game, we sell it for $200? What happens there? Well, what if suddenly it's like a kudos thing to buy that game because you must be rich and people buy it just because it's expensive? Now you have more data and you can just make games and do things specifically to just accumulate data, and then that feeds into this whole psychology, Rovio style like method of designing games where
platform based games.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about the game. The game itself sits on the platform. The platform is where all the work is going into. And you've done all these shock tests and you have all the data, and so you can say, if we do this, after 15 minutes, players will really want to buy something for $10. So every one of our games is going to do that. But then we know that after 2 years of this, people will be tired of that. So then we'll say, we won't. This game, what makes this game better than the others? We don't charge you $15 after 2 hours. Even that's how they'll do it. And then after enough time has passed, they'll reintroduce that system because they'll figure the psychology of it all out. And yeah, it's all just trickery and psychology. It's how casinos work. And again, the actual substance of the game, the creative spark of it, what made the game good, doesn't enter into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to that age-old question of, like, are games art? Not anymore. Not like this. They certainly aren't in this kind of a world. I think it's like a bullshit, like, pointless question. But if you do think that question's important, you do think games are art, well, they're not, because you're right. The majority of the resources are going into user acquisition, psychological studies. Again, I keep mentioning it, but like Enad 7's acquisition of Antimatter was clearly because, as I said, they're a relatively unknown studio that made a first-person shooter in the tens that was able to stand up against, not get completely crushed by AAA titles. That's what they saw value in, and that alone. Not the creative passions of a studio, not the actual great work that they've done. They've hired them to make, and that's, as far as I can tell, 83 and I were kind of in that realm of, like, we're going to do some, like, weird kind of, shooters that don't fit the prototypical norm of what you would expect in a Call of Duty game or whatever, but they should still be able to stand on their own 2 feet. But boop, we're having a bit of a cash flow issue, so we'll just kill them. So it's like all of that talent, all of that energy, all of that creativity and talent that was fostered over years. I mean, Antimatter's been going for like a decade at this point, and they all have, the leadership and whatnot, track record going back years prior to that. All of that just gets evaporated immediately because that doesn't matter. And that wouldn't, I mean, to an extent that did happen in the past. I mean, who trailblazed behaving like that? Companies like EA. And it's like, oh, look, like the largest, most conglomeratized companies with the least amount of competition because they had the backing of things like, all the sports brands, Madden, FIFA, etc. Stuff that is just evergreen. That means that they are in essentially a non-competitive position with the industry relative to their competitors who don't have those evergreen IPs. It's like, right, that's why you started to see this behavior with companies like that. And now we're seeing, relatively speaking, no-name holding companies like Enad. Like, who'd heard of Toadman Interactive when they announced, hey, we ain't Toadman anymore, we're EN7. Everyone went, who the fuck are you? Most people still don't know that Embracer owns like half the industry, or that Tencent has like investments in Ubisoft, or even like Saudi Arabia owns like 9% of Nintendo. Like, most people still don't know this shit. And it's like, so when people ask why are things getting worse, it's like you got to go to the very top of things, and it's this reason. But I think we should probably wrap up because I just remembered I got to go to the garage, and the sun's getting low. I'm almost in pitch blackness here. I think we've answered questions. We've talked, and we're coming up on 2 hours almost again. So I think we should wrap it up there. But yeah, I'm thinking 4 out of 10 on that. Snap judgment. What would you give that?
I think better than I thought. There's some VR games there that I probably will try, like Underdogs, the Vampire Masquerade game. I'd probably try that.
Yeah.
Asgard's Wrath 2, if that's what it's called. I keep forgetting these games' names. And then that multiplayer dungeon game. If you got dungeon in your name, it's suddenly going to be in a sea of other games called dungeon. So I'm going to probably forget your name. So not as negative as your opinion on it, but I'm like I said, 1% in the right direction. So I'm slightly happy, 1% happier than I thought I would be.
We'll give Zuck the thumbs up. Zuck gets one thumb up.
He gets a thumb up that's like imperceptible, like an atom has gone up. Yeah.
We're slightly tilted.
Yeah.
You get a tilted thumb. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Thanks for the questions. I will be back. What are we on? We're on Thursday today, right? Yeah, so I'll be back tomorrow with an enemy stream at 3 p.m. BST, 10 a.m. EST. And we'll be putting the full VOD up. If you missed some of this, you'll be able to watch the full episode once my slow-ass internet has the episode uploaded. So, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.